Hi, again, this is Alice Alicia Jones, and this is part three of Releasing Burdens. And what I want to cover in this section is attracting what you think about. Unfortunately, with burdens, with items that have happened to us, by focusing on them, we keep attracting another version of them into our life. And that's what most people do not realize. They somehow or other, they just feel they're being realistic because this is what happened to them. And so, how can they think about anything else? Well, one of the things that Abraham-Hicks said, Esther Hicks channels a group called a collective consciousness in spirit called Abraham. So that's why it's called Abraham-Hicks. And her teachings are all about attracting the best version of the life that you want. So what she says, if 99 things are going wrong in your life and one thing is going right, focus and concentrate on that one thing. Most people do not get it. They constantly, loop around the things that are going wrong. And unfortunately, your there have been statistics that have been thrown out, which amaze me. But I presume that the people that are throwing them out know what they're talking about. The scientists that are doing the research on this basically have said that most of humanity thinks about negative thoughts. 80% of what they think about in a given day is negative. So effectively, if your 80% of your thinking is negative, how in the world can you attract positive happenings into your life? You can't. It's impossible. And Einstein had a version of this. He basically said, you can't solve a problem with the same mindset that created it. And effectively, so you really have to rely on you changing your own thought pattern. I know when I was in the process of intensely working on changing my thought pattern, when I personally recognized that so much of what I was thinking about looped around negative things, about the bad things that happened to me, constant circling back on bad things. So I developed a technique. I know this was given to me by somebody. I cannot remember who it was, but there was this giant stamp, bank stamp, that said cancel on it. And every single time a negative thought came in, I would say, cancel, cancel. And I did this literally for one day, where I spent one day doing nothing more than monitoring my thoughts, and where I had nothing else to do except, or chose nothing else to do except to monitor my thoughts. And then realize that, oh my God, I'm caught in this same trap. I'm part of the same 80% of that thinking that's negative is what's happening to me. So I really do encourage you to take the time to evaluate what you're thinking about and see how much of it is negative. You absolutely have to get off that hamster wheel of negative thinking, because until you do, you are not going to attract positive events into your life. You will just continue attracting more of the negative. So, the other thing too is watch how your speech pattern, watch how you dialogue with people. Watch what you say. How many times do you belittle yourself? How many times do you excuse yourself? How many times do you say things to somehow or other humble yourself, put yourself down, and make yourself less than? Monitor that. Be careful with that, because what you say externally is a reflection of what you're thinking internally. The other thing, too, that you have to remember, you cannot control what other people think, say, or do. I can't tell you how many times I've heard, well, if you only did this, I would do that. Or you made me do this. You're going to have to take responsibility for your own life. You're going to have to become the kind of person that says, no, that I am going to go after what I want. And what I want is this, this, and this. And then this, and this way is how I'm going to get it. I never thought I wanted to be a neurosurgeon or a nuclear scientist or an aviator, but I did think I wanted to become a public speaker. I did think I wanted to become a teacher and a healer of God. And I did think I wanted to become a published author. So effectively, I recognized how many ways I held myself back from doing what I wanted to do. And again, it was up to me to change whatever was holding me back, because it was me holding me back. When you come to that realization, you will then become a better version of yourself. And because now you have some clarity about your thinking, and then you can give yourself a new direction. When you really accept the fact that you cannot control what another person thinks, says, or does, that you only can control your own attitude, your own reaction to it, then you there's a certain amount of freedom in that. There's a certain amount of the willingness to be able to be a person that you absolutely want to be, and act in a manner that the universe responds you with the gifts that you want from it. So effectively, I know that there are so many of you, because I've seen so many as clients, um, that are really working very, very hard to change the attitude. And I know also that the collective consciousness is changing, because I know when I started on my path in the 80s, uh, when I went looking for a book on angels, I first went to the library rather than to a bookstore, and the librarian gave me the numerical section of the occult, and I looked at it and I thought, angels are in the occult, and so now you can find maybe 800 books on angels, where so the collective consciousness has changed drastically from where it was in the 80s. Spiritual endeavor, body, mind, spirit, transformation is mainstream. Reiki is mainstream. I had a class yesterday of wonderful students that just absolutely there were parts of the class where I could feel the energy around us, and it was like we were one mind. It was absolutely fantastic. So whatever I said to them, they absorbed it, they felt it, and I felt very strongly they healed portions of themselves just by the fact that they were willing to take in new concepts that they hadn't heard before or had never considered before. So, okay, that's one thing that I wanted to state here. The other way of releasing burdens, this came from a professor of psychology when I was in college at the University of Michigan. He said, most people will go into developing psychosis or neurosis simply because they refuse to feel 20 minutes of pain. And that statement stayed with me my entire life. And I thought, how is that possible? But then I recognized that, okay, when I felt an intense emotion of pain, that by allowing it to course through my body for 20 minutes, it left. It totally left. So I do encourage you to allow yourself to feel the pain for 20 minutes and then let it go. The other thing that there are four words that I use, and then I take the four words and I pair them with a fifth. I call it calling a cab. I say CCAB, and then the last letter is G. So clear, center, align, balance, and ground. So my cab is cab G. By having those four words as part of my daily prayer ritual, I clear, I center, I align, I balance, I ground. I have a sense of plumpness, a sense of purpose, a sense of the fact that I am again in a better place than I was before. One technique that you can use at night when you're, because a lot of people who are stressed out also have trouble falling asleep. And the technique for the evening, which is excellent, and there are probably at least 10 YouTube videos on this, is Yoga Nidra. Yoga Nidra is a yoga technique where you basically just tighten your parts of your body and then release them. Tighten, release, tighten, release. But you go from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet, or from the bottom of your feet to the top of your head. And by the time you finish about 20 minutes of this, you are in a place where you can get a very restful, relaxing sleep. The last thing I wanted to cover with releasing burdens is that there are a group of remedies out there called Bach, Bach, just like the composer. They're in a yellow box, and they're called Bach Flower remedies. And there is one specifically called Rescue Remedy that is meant to heal just a free floating anxiety that we seem to experience. So we always have that to fall back on. And I know that Bach Flower remedies, when I started my journey and in the 80s, that was one of the very first things that I turned to. I also would love to share with you the fact that I've written a fantastic book on releasing burdens called Own Your Power Day by Day, 365 meditations, one for every day, one for leap year too. Um, and it always addresses something that's upbeat, positive, healing, and transformative. So really would love you to consider it. It's on Amazon, it's on Balboa Press, Barnes& and Noble, Alibris, and many other bookstores. Thank you. And we will see you at the next session, which will be at the end of May.